What's up guys, I'm Zedius, and this is another FIFA 17 video. Today, I have the 4th episode of our Road to Glory series. In the previous episode, we focused on qualifying in the FUT Champs Weekend League, and managed to do that successfully. This episode, we have the first 14 games of our Weekend League run. In the next video, we're going to have the next 16 games in our Weekend League journey. You've just seen us jump into our first game of the Weekend League. So this team was a pretty good team, and that's going to be a common theme here. You're going to find that most teams are going to be better than us. We do find a goal there. We do score first. I'm using my Bundesliga team here. So originally I started out, I kind of explained this in the last episode. I'm going to use 2 teams to get fitness on each other. So if you use one team and the other team is on the bench, they'll all regain fitness. And then you can use one team for 2 games, switch back, use the other team for 2 games. Eventually I end up abandoning that idea because as he scores a second goal to go ahead in this game here. Eventually I end up abandoning that idea because it's just too hard to get used to 2 different teams. When you're playing 40 games and you're playing usually a lot of games in a row, 3 to 4 games in a row at a time before you take a break, you want to be used to the players. You want to be familiar with what the players are going to do when, and there's his 4th goal there. But you want to know your team inside and out. So eventually I do end up switching to just using one team and just a few players I'm familiar with, and I end up rotating some BPL players through to get our fitness that way. This episode, I'm going to try not to commentate on the goals too much. I felt like that got a little dry. I will mention goals here or there and try and recap games when I can. But I want to make this series a little more about instruction and tips and tricks and information that can help you guys be better, not just a recount of the goals I've scored in my Ultimate Team. Sort of thing. So that was a nice goal there. Adrian Ramos at the far post. We do take the lead in this game. We didn't get off to a great start in this Road to Glory Weekend League journey, but I'll give you the record as we go along. But we do end up losing this game as well. So one thing I do want to talk about today on that informational topic is formations. You'll see a wide range of formations used. There are some formations you won't really see used. Generally, 5 at the back, you don't see it anymore. When FUT Champions first started, there was a lot of people using 5 at the back because they were scared to lose games. So they'd go very defensively, just try not to give up a goal and hope they got one on the counter. Now you don't see that as much. By the same token, you don't really see 3 at the back too often. Most people feel that it leaves you too exposed. That said, I do recommend you try 5 at the back or a 3 at the back formation, probably in divisions, not jump right into FUT Champs with it. But if you try a 3 or 5 at the back formation, it could work for you. It could click for you. A lot of formations is personal preference. So try everything, try as much as you can, and whatever works for you is what you should stick with. I'm going to say what works for me, and I'm going to say what's popular for a lot of people, but none of that really matters at the end of the day. You just got to try what you like, and the players that you use, what they fit into, and what works for you. So I've already talked about my formation a little bit, the 4-3-3 4th variant with that cam. I feel like it's a very good formation. It's effective. I've already used a lot of formations though, so this is kind of what I've settled on as my favorite formation. We do get a nice win there, 4-0. That's our first win of the Weekend League. Another very popular formation, and that 4-3-3 is something you're gonna see in FUT Champs. Another popular formation is the 4-3-2-1 with those inside forwards. People like that formation because it's tight, it's compact, it gives you a lot of attacking options. You can really overwhelm an opponent. You're throwing a lot of bodies forward at once. You can play that short tiki-taka and then push a through ball. It's solid enough defensively, particularly if you apply player instructions to your central midfielders to come back and help out when they're attacking. And a lot of people like that particular formation for that reason. It's good attacking formation, but it's solid enough defensively as well. A formation I like, and actually we just saw it two times in a row here, is the flat 4-4-2. I mean, it's a classic formation for a reason. It gives you enough attacking options with the two strikers, and your wingers can get up and down. You can use your central midfielders either attacking or defensively with those player instructions, or you can use one attackingly and one defensively. It gives you so much flexibility. That's the good thing about it. You can play on the counter, you can play a possession game. It's really something that you can adapt to your opponent. So that's a formation I would definitely recommend trying out. Maybe as the first formation. It is the default formation in Ultimate Team when you first create a squad. Another popular formation is really any of the 4-3-3 variants. The 4-3-3-4 is probably the most common, but I do see the false 9 used, which is the 5th variation with that center forward. It kind of pushes your wingers a little further up, so they play off of that center forward. Nice goal there from Amrabat, headed across there. They play off of that center forward, so you can really drive down the wings and cut inside if that's kind of your gameplay. That can be effective for you. Another 4-3-3 that I use is, I believe, the 2nd variation with the 1 CDM and the 2 center midfielders. That works if you have a very good central midfielder who's not good at going forward, say Luis Gustavo or Nemanja Matic. Somebody who you don't want to be shooting with, but can really anchor the midfield and start attacks, and gives you a really good, solid foundation defensively. And here's our first penalty shootout. I guess I'll take this time to talk about penalties, because I haven't really gone in depth with it. I did mention that you should practice them in the arena before you really take them online. And we are about to put this one away and win that penalty shootout there. So that was good. But yeah, definitely practice penalty shootouts. They really changed them up this year, so that arrow, I don't use the arrow. You can use an arrow. Sometimes if you press up on the D-pad, it'll bring up an arrow that you can use to kind of aim. I don't like it. I feel like it throws me off a little bit, but you can use it. Wow, what a goal there from Mahrez, I believe. Oh, no, Ander Herrera. Wow, what a goal. But with the penalties, it's more about feel than anything else. I normally don't hit it too hard. If you roll along the ground, goalkeepers actually have a hard time stopping it in most cases. If you put it on the ground in the corner, you're going to score more often than not. So we do have a few penalty shootouts throughout our weekend league. And here's another penalty in game there. Confident puts it away. And just going back to formations again. This guy was using the 4-3-2-1, and I was able to kind of counter it. I was making some decent tackles. Unfortunately, I think he does score here, though. Yeah, that's with Mahrez, I believe. There were some good goals in this game. So along with formations, there's something else that you should keep in mind when you're building a team. Player instructions. I've mentioned it a little bit already, and player instructions are really going to depend on your personal preference, for one, and the formation you're using for the second. Most common player instructions that people use is probably stay back while attacking on their fullbacks. Almost everyone that I watch on YouTube or have talked to, or pro players that I look at, they use stay back while attacking on their fullbacks, because they feel like if they don't, their fullbacks get too far forward, and they feel exposed defensively. My style, I don't use that. My style is pressing high up the pitch. If I can win the ball before they get to the halfway line, that's better. A lot of people will contain, let them attack, and then counter out of that. I like to use that high pressure system, and sometimes I get beat, like right here. Sometimes I do get beat with it, but that's just how I like to play, because I feel like it helps me score a lot of goals. And this game is long over by now. I think he gets his 6th here. Rebound off the crossbar. Yes, so that's a common player instruction that people use. Again, it depends a lot on formation. So for the midfielders, the options, central midfielders, the options are to stay forward, which you'll usually use with cams, or stay back while attacking, which you might use with CDMs. And here we bought Jack Butland with a bunch of contracts, and we got him for cheaper than he was going for. Sorry about this. I missed the first part of this game, but there were no goals in it anyway, so I showed the score at halftime. But we do put Jack Butland in. Jack Butland is just... no one can explain why he's so good, but he is just so good. He makes a lot of saves that a lot of other goalkeepers don't make, and nothing you could do about that. Just couldn't react in time after diving already and then getting blocked. We ended up losing that game. But Jack Butland is a quality goalkeeper for the coins that you're spending. Wow, look at that team. SBC cards all over the place. That one-to-watch contact. Wow, what a team. So I was glad we added Jack Butland. He didn't have the best of starts, but that's because we were just playing good teams, unfortunately. So back to player instructions. So the central midfielders, you can tell to stay up, come back. You can tell your playmakers to free roam, so they'll wander towards the ball and use that to their advantage. There's a lot of different options you can have for wingers. You can tell them to stay forward, and that is the one player instruction I started using about halfway through our Foot Champs run. I felt that my wingers were getting too far behind, and nice goal there at the far post. I felt my wingers were getting too trapped in defense, so I wanted them to stay forward, so we have an attacking outlet, and we can go forward and attack quickly. For the striker, you can give them instructions to get in behind, try to play some through balls. That works with a lot of quick strikers. Or you can tell them to act as sort of a target man. Maybe like an Ibrahimovic would be a good example of a target man. What a goal there from Amrabat on the volley. And they'll kind of come to the ball, and you can play off of them. They'll hold up play so everybody else can get forward. Like I said, there's just so many options that can really customize your formation and let you play the way you want to play. Here's our next penalty shootout. I sped up the footage because it can be kind of boring to watch a whole penalty shootout, but at double speed it's a little better. So another thing to keep in mind when you're building your squad is free kick takers, like rolls. So you can actually set who you want to be your corner taker, who you want to be your penalty taker, who you want to be your short and long free kick taker, and your captain. Your captain really has no relevance, it's just personal preference, whatever. But if you set all those, you don't have to waste the time in game switching them. You can just have who you want to take and just go from there. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. And the final thing when building your team is custom tactics. So this is added in this year, I believe. So you can have custom tactics on your team. Without seeing it right in front of me, I'll do my best to remember what they are. So I know there's attacking speed, which is kind of how fast you come out of the back. And then that's your build-up play. So in build-up play, you kind of, like, defensively, you usually want to have it set to organized. But like when you're building up in the box, there's a setting that you can have freeform, so players will overlap, they'll kind of switch positions as needed to find that open space. One thing to note about custom tactics is that defensively, your standard is set to offside trap. So if you feel you're getting beat in behind a lot because your defenders are too far up, that's probably because offside trap is set in your custom tactics by default. So if you haven't messed with them, that's what they are. You can set that to cover, and your center backs will kind of stand back a little bit and hopefully not get beat going through on goal. There's also like width, depth, aggression, and that all affects like how wide your players stay, how aggressive they are towards the ball, things like that. So it's really something you got to mess around with yourself. The same way as player instructions and formation. It's really down to personal preference. So if you take a look at it and kind of mess with the numbers to what you think is good, and then just tweak it as you go through, I'm normally pretty happy with the default. And until we get a team that we're going to stick with for a while, I'm not going to mess around with them too much. Just because we're playing changing players so often to get fitness back on them. Oh, what a goal there from Suarez. We don't really have a set starting 11 at the moment, so we just keep rotating players. So until the time where we have a starting 11, and then we just tweak that starting 11 rather than rotate it constantly, I'll hold off on custom tactics for now. And the last thing to keep in mind when you're talking about building a team is the actual players that you're putting into the team. Of course, it's important to consider them. So generally speaking, you want, starting at the back, you want fast fullbacks. When you have players coming at you that have 85 plus sprint speed, you want your fullbacks to be fast enough to catch them. Especially me, because I push my fullbacks up quite a bit, so they've got to chase back a lot. So the higher up your fullbacks go, the more pace you want them to have. So generally, more pace is better on a fullback. Size isn't super important, but if you can get big fullbacks, that's okay. Like take Luke Shaw for example. He's 6 foot or over, good physical player. I find that physicality isn't super important for your fullbacks, but if that's something that appeals to you, you can use them. Center backs, a different story. Physicality is very important in my opinion. Strength is good, especially because your center backs are generally going to be slower than the attackers, so they might not be able to catch up and get that ball. So they might be able to do just enough to get to the player, and if they have high strength, they can muscle them off the ball without having to have enough pace. The center backs I'm using do have a decent amount of pace. Agbana for one, over 70 pace. That's a general guideline. If you have 70 plus pace on your center backs, you're most likely going to be okay. Moving into your central midfielders, in the formation I use box to box all around central midfielders. Tom Cleverley and Fellaini. They're good enough going forward. They can win balls. They're good passers. They can move the ball through the field. And they do their job basically. They can do everything fairly well. For the cam, I like pace. I find that the cam gets put through on goal. Excuse me. Put through on goal fairly often. So if you have enough pace to run through on goal, I think that's good. He should also be a good finisher for the same reason. He can get through on goal. He needs to be able to finish his shots. Also a good passer. Your cam is the key to this team. If he's a good passer, he can hit his wingers down the line. He can hit through balls to his striker. He can play 1-2s with the central midfielders, same thing. I don't find physicality too important, and defending not important at all. Dribbling though is important in a cam, so he can kind of weave his way through some players. And that's why Gaston Ramirez is so good. Those stats are high for him. You can see we just bought Alberto Moreno there. Pacey fullback. In my opinion, one of the best in the BPL. Though his defending is low, if you put an anchor or a shadow card on him, he becomes incredible with very high pace, about 95 with 94 with an anchor. So very good. And then moving into your wingers. Your wingers, you want pace because a lot of people are going to have pacey fullbacks. You want wingers that can give them a run for their money. Good crossing is something that I look for. Because I do cross a lot, and crossing does actually influence the ground cross, which is the triple tap square, which you can find is effective for scoring goals. And then finally, you want good dribbling on your wingers as well, because they'll be your dribblers down the wing and cutting inside. Your striker, there's really two routes to go. You can go with a fast, pacey striker to get through on goal. You can go with a slower target man striker, kind of like I was talking about before. Amrabat is more of a pacey striker. He does get through on goal, but he's also got good positioning, so he's in the right place at the right time very often. And so here we're wrapping up our run here. I think we do win this game. We're up 5-2. So we actually end our 14 games here at 6 wins from 14, which is 6 wins and 8 losses. Our goal is 18 wins, which is Gold 3, which gives us automatic qualification to the next weekend league, and some pretty good prizes. If we can get to that, I'll be really happy. And we're on track as far as this episode goes. But I'll see you guys tomorrow for our next set of games. Look forward to it. Thanks. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.